The alien court was filled with light, sound, and whispers. Tall crystal pillars glowed in blue and silver, stretching toward the high ceiling where banners of the empire swayed gently. Nobles in shining robes lined the hall, their jeweled masks hiding faces full of pride. In the center stood a man, not one of them, a human. His wrists were bound in heavy chains of steel that clinked with every step. His body was bruised, his uniform torn, and dried blood marked his jaw. Yet his eyes, dark, sharp, unbroken, did not bend before the alien crowd that mocked him. The Empress sat high on her throne of obsidian, her golden crown resting lightly on her brow. Around her, guards in black armor kept their weapons ready, though it seemed unnecessary. The human warrior had no sword, no gun, not even armor. He was just a prisoner, dragged from a battlefield that was now nothing more than burning ash. Still, there was something in his stance that unsettled many in the chamber. He stood too tall for a beaten man. He looked too calm for one facing humiliation. At the base of the throne, the Empress's daughter rose to her feet. She was young, proud and cruelly beautiful, her long silver hair falling over her robe of crimson silk. With a mocking smile, she stepped toward the prisoner. Her voice, sharp and confident, echoed through the court. "Is this the great warrior of Earth? This human?" she said, tilting her head in scorn. "He looks weak. He looks broken. Are these the creatures that dare resist the Empire?" Laughter filled the hall, nobles whispering with smug delight. The daughter circled the prisoner, her gaze sharp like a blade. "Tell me, human, where is your courage now? Where is your power? You are nothing, less than nothing, a beast dressed as a man." The prisoner said nothing. His silence only enraged her more. She slapped his face with the back of her jeweled hand, a strike meant to humiliate rather than harm. Chains rattled, but the man did not fall. He lifted his head slowly, meeting her gaze. For the first time, her smile faltered. His eyes did not hold anger, nor fear. They burned with something deeper, a fire that could not be crushed. The daughter stepped back, uneasy but unwilling to show weakness. "Pathetic," she spat, trying to hide her trembling hand. "You will die as nothing, and your people will fade into dust." The court erupted with laughter again, but then a heavy sound silenced it. The Empress stood. Her robes flowed like water as she descended from her throne. The chamber grew quiet, nobles bowing their heads in respect. The daughter, still smirking, turned to her mother, expecting praise for her cruel performance. Instead, she found her mother's golden eyes cold and heavy. "Mock him if you wish," the Empress said, her voice calm but sharp as steel. "But know this." The chamber froze. The daughter blinked, confused by her mother's tone. The prisoner looked up for the first time, his eyes narrowing. The Empress's next words shattered the air like a blade of thunder. "He is your father." The hall erupted in gasps and cries of disbelief. Nobles stumbled back, guards shifted uneasily, and the daughter's face turned pale. She opened her mouth, but no words came. Her hand trembled at her side as she stared at the man she had mocked, bruised, bloodied, chained. A human, and yet, her father. The warrior did not move, did not speak. His eyes remained steady, watching the storm of shock ripple through the court. The daughter staggered back, her lips parting in disbelief. That cannot be," she whispered, her voice cracking. "You lie. This cannot be true." But the Empress's face did not change. Her words were not spoken in jest, nor in cruelty. They carried the weight of truth, and the court could feel it. The daughter felt her world crumble beneath her feet. All her life she had been told that humans were weak, unworthy, nothing but prey to the Empire's will. Yet here stood one in chains, and her mother had just declared him her blood. The hall, once full of mocking laughter, was now drowned in whispers. Some nobles hissed in shock, others muttered in rage. A scandal like this could shake the Empire, a human as the father of the heir. Impossible, unthinkable, dangerous. The Empress raised her hand, silencing the voices. "You may mock him," she said again, her gaze heavy upon her daughter, "but do not forget who he is. He is the warrior who once saved me. He is the man whose blood runs in your veins, and he will not be broken." The daughter's breath came fast, her chest rising and falling as she turned back to the prisoner. His silence cut deeper than any words. His eyes told a story of pain, of strength, of truth she did not want to face. She had mocked him, spat on him, called him less than nothing. But now she knew the truth. The chains rattled as the guards tightened their hold on the prisoner, dragging him back toward the shadows. But his gaze remained fixed on her, and she felt her knees weaken under its weight. The court trembled with the weight of secrets revealed, and the galaxy itself seemed to hold its breath. And in that moment, the daughter realized that her life, her pride, her power, her very identity, would never be the same again. The court was still in shock. The Empress's words hung heavy in the air like a storm that refused to pass. Guards shifted uneasily, nobles whispered in panic, and the daughter stood frozen, staring at the chained warrior. Her heart pounded, her throat dry. She could not believe it. This human, this broken prisoner she had mocked, could not be her father. It was impossible. And yet, her mother's eyes told her it was true. The Empress raised her hand, demanding silence. Slowly, the murmurs of the court faded until only the crackling sound of torches remained. Then she spoke, her voice calm but heavy with memory. "Long before this war, long before you were born, there was a battle on the edge of the galaxy. Our fleet was ambushed by enemies stronger than we had ever faced. Our ships burned, our warriors fell, and I was moments from death." She paused, her gaze sweeping across the nobles. "But it was not an alien who saved me. It was a human." The daughter's lips parted in disbelief. "A human?" she whispered, almost choking on the word. The Empress nodded. "Yes. A commander of Earth's defense fleet. He stood against an army when no one else would. His ship was torn apart, his men scattered, but still he fought. He fought not for glory, not for power, but for the lives of those around him, even my life." The prisoner lifted his head slightly at those words, though his face remained unreadable. The daughter stared at him, struggling to connect the image of this bloodied, silent man with the heroic figure her mother described. The Empress's voice grew softer, touched with something rare, something almost like sorrow. "We were trapped together on a dying world, hunted by the same enemy. For weeks we fought side by side. He carried me when I could not walk. He shielded me when death came close. And in those dark nights, when the stars seemed cold and far away, he gave me something I had never known." Her eyes fell on her daughter, steady and unflinching. "Hope." The daughter's chest tightened. She could not look away. The Empress continued, her tone quieter now. "When the war ended and we returned to our people, duty pulled us apart. I was bound to the throne. He was bound to Earth. But before we parted, we shared something no law, no empire could take away." She stepped closer to her daughter. "You." The hall filled with sharp gasps. The nobles whispered in disbelief, some clutching their robes as if the very air betrayed them. "A scandal," one hissed. "A disgrace," another muttered. "A human father? Unthinkable." But the Empress's glare silenced them. Her authority was iron, and none dared challenge her in the open. Still, the whispers carried weight, and the daughter felt it press upon her shoulders. She turned to the prisoner again, her heart racing. If this is true," she whispered, her voice trembling, "why did you never come for me? Why did you leave me?" The prisoner's jaw tightened. His lips parted slightly, but no words came. His silence was louder than thunder. His chains clinked as he shifted, but still he stood tall. The daughter's voice rose, breaking through the silence of the chamber. "Say something. Tell me it's a lie. Tell me you are not. You cannot." But still the human warrior remained silent, his eyes fixed on hers, and in those eyes she saw no denial, no weakness, only truth. The daughter staggered back, her mind spinning. Her whole life she had been taught to see humans as less intelligent, less powerful, less worthy. She had mocked them, hated them, crushed them beneath her words. And now she learned the truth. The blood of a human flowed in her veins. Her chest burned with shame, anger, and confusion all at once. "Why him?" she demanded, turning to the Empress, her voice sharp with desperation. "Of all beings in this galaxy, why him? Why a human?" The Empress's gaze softened. "Because he was stronger than any noble, because he was braver than any general, and because, when all else failed, he never abandoned me." She turned back to the court. "He is not weak. He is not broken. He is the reason you stand here today." The chamber grew quiet again. The nobles did not laugh now. They did not mock. Instead, they looked upon the chained warrior with something new, something close to fear. The daughter felt her knees weaken. She wanted to deny it, to scream that it was all lies. But deep inside, she knew the truth. She had seen the fire in his eyes when she mocked him. She had felt the weight of his silence. This man was no broken prisoner. He was something more. The court remained frozen, trapped in the storm of revelation. And the daughter realized her world had changed forever. But she did not yet understand this was only the beginning. The court remained unsettled long after the Empress spoke. The nobles whispered like a hive of restless insects, their voices sharp with anger and fear. But the human warrior, he said nothing. He stood in chains, battered and bruised, yet he seemed untouched by the storm around him. His silence carried more weight than the loudest shout, and that silence pressed against the hearts of everyone present. The daughter could not bear it. Her chest felt heavy, her thoughts a storm. She stepped closer to him, her voice shaking as she tried to break the quiet. "Why do you not speak?" she demanded. "Do you not hear what she says? Do you not see what this means?" The warrior's eyes rose slowly to meet hers. They were dark and deep, filled with battles no one in this court could ever imagine. But still no words came, only silence. The daughter clenched her fists. "Say something. Deny it. Tell me you are not my father. Tell me this is some cruel trick." Her voice cracked, echoing through the crystal walls, but the man remained still, his silence cutting sharper than any blade. His gaze did not waver. His breathing was steady, strong. And for the first time in her life, the daughter felt small, not because of her mother's power or the weight of the empire, but because of this chained human who did not need words to command respect. The nobles shifted, their whispers turning darker. "He shames us," one muttered. "He dares defy us even in chains," said another. The guards tightened their grip on their weapons, their fear growing with every heartbeat. The Empress's voice broke the tension. "He does not speak because he does not need to," she said. Her eyes lingered on the prisoner. "His silence is a weapon. His silence is proof." The daughter shook her head, her thoughts crashing. She remembered all the times she had mocked humans in the halls of the academy, all the times she had called them weak and worthless. She had stood proud, convinced of her own superiority. And now, standing before this man, she felt that pride collapse. Still, anger burned in her chest. She turned to him again, her eyes sharp, though her heart trembled. "If you are my father," she spat, "why did you never claim me? Why did you never come for me? Did you abandon me like a coward?" For a moment something flickered in the warrior's eyes. Pain, regret. But then it was gone, replaced once more with that heavy silence. The daughter's voice rose louder, desperate, almost pleading. "Answer me, say something, anything." But still he gave her nothing. The chamber shook with tension. The nobles leaned forward, hungry for the scandal. Some smirked, hoping the warrior's silence would destroy the Empress's claim. Others shivered, sensing that his silence carried more power than they wished to admit. The Empress stepped down from her throne, her voice steady. "He does not speak because words are wasted on those who do not listen, but his silence tells more than you realize." The daughter trembled. She could feel the truth in her mother's words, though she fought to deny it. Every second the human warrior stood in silence. She felt his presence grow stronger. She could not understand it, but it terrified her. Then, slowly, the warrior moved. The chains clinked as he straightened his back fully, his shoulders rising, his stance firm. He looked not like a prisoner now, but like a commander once more. The daughter gasped quietly, her heart tightening in her chest. The court grew silent again, every noble watching with wide eyes. And then, he took a single step forward. The guards tried to hold him back, but even in chains he seemed unstoppable. His boots struck the floor like thunder. He stood taller than the nobles, taller even than the guards around him. The daughter stumbled back, her breath quick and shallow. She wanted to speak again, but the words caught in her throat. She wanted to call him weak, to mock him again. But the lie would not form. His silence was too strong, too heavy. One noble broke the silence, his voice shaking. "This cannot stand. He must be executed at once. A human cannot be tied to the bloodline of the throne." Others agreed, their voices rising in anger. "End him. Cut this shame from the empire. He must die." The daughter's heart pounded as the hall filled with shouts. She looked at the human again, expecting fear, but there was none. He stood calm, as if death itself could not touch him. The empress raised her hand, silencing the court with a single motion. "No," she said firmly. "He will not be executed. He is under my protection. He is not only my past, he is your future." The words shook the chamber. The nobles hissed and argued, but none dared to openly defy her. Still, the weight of rebellion filled the air. The daughter's eyes locked once more with the prisoner's, and in that moment, she understood the truth. His silence was not weakness. It was strength. It was defiance. It was a message. A storm brewed inside her. Shame, anger, confusion, pride. She could not decide which feeling consumed her most. But one thing she knew with certainty: her life would never return to what it was before. And though the warrior had spoken no words, he had already changed everything. The great court had barely recovered from the storm of revelation when a new sound thundered through the palace walls. At first it was distant, like a low rumble across the stars. Then it grew louder, sharper, until the crystal pillars trembled and the floor itself seemed to quake. The nobles turned in alarm, their jeweled masks flashing in the light as panic swept across their faces. A guard rushed into the chamber, his armor scorched, his voice frantic. "Empress, the enemy fleet has entered orbit. The capital is under attack." Gasps and shouts filled the court. Nobles screamed, their perfect composure shattered. Some demanded ships to escape. Others shouted for the army to be called. The daughter froze, her heart pounding. She looked to her mother, but for once the empress did not speak. Her golden eyes narrowed with worry as the walls shook again. The human warrior lifted his head. For the first time, his calm gaze sharpened with purpose. He had heard the sound of war before, he knew it well. His chains rattled as he straightened his stance. The nobles cried louder. "We must flee. Protect the empress. Kill the prisoner before he escapes." But the warrior did not wait for permission. When the guards pulled at his chains to drag him away, he moved with sudden force. In a single violent motion, he yanked the chains from their grip and slammed one guard into the crystal wall. The hall gasped. Even bound, he fought with power that seemed impossible. The daughter stumbled back, her eyes wide. He was no broken prisoner now. He was a storm unleashed. The guards drew their weapons, blades glowing with energy. But the empress raised her hand. "Stop," she commanded. "Do not strike him." The warrior stood tall, his chest rising with steady breaths. He looked at the empress, then at the daughter, then at the court filled with cowards and schemers. His silence remained, but his message was clear. He would not let them fall without a fight. The enemy fleet struck again. Explosions echoed above the palace as fire rained across the city. From the windows, the daughter saw the sky blaze with streaks of red and gold. Alien ships burned as enemy vessels tore through their defenses. Screams rose from the streets. The palace shook as another blast struck close. Noble after noble ran for safety. their pride forgotten. But the daughter could not move. She could only watch the human warrior as he turned, his chains dragging behind him like broken shadows, and walked toward the doors of the court. "Where are you going?" she shouted, her voice trembling. For the first time he paused. Slowly, he turned his head back. His lips parted, and though his voice was low, rough from silence, the words carried across the hall like thunder. "To fight." The daughter's breath caught in her throat. He had spoken, and in that single word she heard the weight of his life. The battles he had fought, the pain he had endured, the fire that still burned within him. The Empress nodded, her face calm, but her eyes proud. "Release him," she ordered. The guards hesitated, but they dared not disobey. With shaking hands, they unlocked the chains. The heavy links clattered to the floor, echoing like the sound of a blade unsheathed. The warrior rolled his shoulders, his muscles tense, his eyes sharp. He picked up the weapon of a fallen guard, a long spear of glowing steel. It fit in his hands as if it had always belonged there. The daughter stepped forward, her voice trembling. "But why? Why fight for us? We mocked you, we chained you, we—" He looked at her, his eyes steady. "Because even in chains," he said, "a father protects his child." Her heart stopped. The words cut through her pride like fire through ice. She felt her throat tighten, her eyes sting. For the first time, she saw not a prisoner, not a human, not even a stranger. She saw her father. The warrior strode from the court, his spear gleaming, his steps sure. Guards who once mocked him now followed behind, drawn by his strength. The nobles who had sneered now stared in awe. The Empress watched with pride, her voice steady as she declared, "Look well, all of you. This is the bloodline of the future." The palace gates shook as enemy soldiers forced their way inside, but the human warrior was already there. He met them head-on, his spear flashing, his movements sharp and deadly. He struck with the fury of a storm, cutting through armored invaders as though they were paper. Every strike carried years of rage, years of survival, years of unbroken will. The daughter ran to the balcony and looked out. She saw ships burning, streets in chaos, but she also saw something else. The human warrior rallying soldiers, shouting commands, fighting not as a prisoner, but as a leader. Soldiers followed him, willingly, their fear replaced by courage. Her chest swelled with something she had never felt before. Pride. The man she had mocked, the father she had denied, was saving them all. The battle raged, fire lighting the sky, but through the smoke and chaos one truth became clear. Humanity was not weak. Humanity was not broken. Humanity was a force the galaxy could not silence. And the daughter knew then. The galaxy would never forget the day a human warrior rose in chains and led an empire into war. The battle raged through the night. Fire rained from the skies, and the streets of the capital burned red. Enemy ships screamed above, their weapons tearing through the defenses of the proud empire. But where nobles fled and generals hesitated, the human warrior stood firm. With each strike of his spear, hope returned to the soldiers. His voice carried across the battlefield, steady and commanding. He was no longer a prisoner. He was no longer in chains. He was a leader, and every soldier who followed him felt his unshakable will. The daughter watched from the balcony, her chest rising and falling with every breath. She had never seen such courage. This man, the one she had mocked as weak, fought with the fury of 10 armies. His body bore wounds, his armor broken, yet he pressed forward without fear. Every enemy that fell before him carried a message. The human spirit could not be crushed. The nobles who once spat on him now stared in awe. Some tried to hide their fear. Others whispered prayers to their gods. Even the Empress herself, calm and proud, could not hide the glimmer of pride in her golden eyes. At dawn, the tide began to turn. Enemy ships pulled back, their formations broken by the warrior's relentless counterattacks. The soldiers of the Empire, inspired by his courage, pushed forward with renewed strength. By sunrise, the enemy fleet was in retreat, leaving wreckage, and smoke scattered across the skies. The court gathered once more, this time not in mockery but in silence. The warrior entered the chamber slowly, his spear still in hand, his body covered in scars and blood. Yet he walked with the strength of victory. Soldiers followed behind him, their eyes shining with respect. The daughter stepped forward, her throat tight, her heart heavy with emotion she could not name. For the first time, she bowed her head. "You saved us," she whispered. "You saved me, even after everything I said, everything I did." The warrior's gaze softened, though. His voice remained steady. "A father does not need thanks," he said. "A father protects his child, even when the child does not understand." Her chest ached at his words. She felt shame for her cruelty, but also pride. Pride that this man, this human, was her blood. She raised her head, her silver hair falling around her face, and for the first time she looked at him not as a prisoner, not as an alien, but as her father. The nobles shifted uneasily. One finally spoke, his voice trembling. "Empress, this cannot be allowed. If the galaxy learns the air carries human blood, our enemies will use it against us. The throne will lose its power." The Empress rose from her seat, her robes flowing like fire. She stepped down to stand beside the human warrior. Her voice rang through the hall like thunder. "No, the throne will not fall, it will rise. For today you all saw the truth. When your armies faltered, when your fleets broke, when your courage fled, you saw who stood against the storm. It was not you. It was him." The nobles fell silent, their protests crushed beneath her words. The Empress's golden eyes swept across them like blades. "Do you call humanity weak now? Do you dare mock them again?" None spoke. None dared. The daughter stepped beside her father, her voice clear though her hands trembled. "I mocked him. I called him worthless. I called humans weak. But now I know the truth. His blood runs in my veins, and I will never again be ashamed of it. I will honor it." Gasps filled the court. Her declaration struck harder than any blade. The heir to the throne, once proud and cruel, now stood in open pride of her human blood. The warrior placed his hand gently on her shoulder, his eyes steady. "You carry two worlds within you. Do not waste them on hate. Carry them with honor." The chamber grew still. For a long moment no one moved, no one spoke. The fire of war still smoldered outside, but within the palace a new fire had been lit, one that would burn far longer. The Empress raised her voice once more. "Let it be known to the galaxy, humanity is not broken, humanity is not weak, humanity is family." The daughter's eyes filled with tears, but she did not look away. She had mocked him, hated him, denied him, yet he had fought for her, saved her, and forgiven her. She would carry that weight forever. The warrior said no more. He turned, his silhouette framed by the rising sun pouring through the shattered windows. His body was battered, his scars deep, but his spirit was unbroken. In that moment, every noble, every soldier, every witness in the hall knew a truth they would never forget. The galaxy had feared many things: fleets, empires, gods. But on this day they learned to fear something greater: a human warrior and his legacy of blood.